Well, welcome everybody to the Brown Bag Podcast. And we have a very special episode. We are here with Change It Now folks, some people that help start Change It Now, folks that help build Change It Now. And we're just here to talk about the Change It Now or CIN learning community at Chabot campus. As maybe you know or don't know, our listeners, that we are sunsetting the program. So the program won't be at Chabot anymore, but we wanted to use this podcast just to honor the work that we did here at Chabot for 15 years. So I'm going to have my guests go around and introduce themselves and then also just share something that's giving you life these days.
Okay, I could jump right in. So, hi everyone. My name is Michael. I'm a counselor at Chabot College, and I also coordinate Movement, which is our Asian American learning community, and I also help coordinate Asians Unite, which is our Pacific Islander student success program. And one thing that's giving me life these days is I recently created like a playlist of like some childhood classic songs and R&B like kind of classics. And I don't know, just driving, listening to it has really been bringing back a lot of like memories of like our youth and it's just been real positive and just so yeah, that's what's giving me a lot of life and just looking at our students today and just those songs just kind of like helps me I don't know, just think back to when I was like around their age and going through some of the challenges and experiences, you know, early 20s and around that time. So it's been really fun and kind of special in that way.
Mhm. I love
Mm.
it. I love
Can I
it.
popcorn over someone?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
And just keep it
I'll
rolling.
popcorn over to Felicia.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Michael. I'm Felicia or Flea. I am a counselor at Chabot. I work with the behavioral health programs. I'm also a counselor and a life coach out there in the world at large. I focus on somatics and career and grief work. Something that's given me life, Michael, you inspired me. My favorite radio station is KEXP 97 or 92.7. And they have been doing all week what they call 6 degrees. So every DJ, every single song, they have to connect to the next song. So it's like either it was the same producer or somebody sampled the prior song and they've done it like all week long. They'll pick
Mhm.
a special theme each hour. And yesterday, like at the dinner hour, they picked the Muppets as their special theme. And I was like, this is the best hour of my life. I was like, somebody understands me. That Muppets can like
Mm.
inspire and support any life experience that you're going through. So it was amazing. So that gives me life. And I'll
Dun,
popcorn
dun,
it to
dun, dun,
Jason, who I thought
dun, dun, dun,
raise
dun,
the roof when I
dun,
said
dun,
Muppet.
I will not bust it out on this podcast, but I can do a Kermit the Frog impression. Hi, Jason Ames, communication studies instructor and director of forensics sometimes, and director of forensics not sometimes. Also, I've served on a lot of different institutions at the college, faculty senate, and also in the faculty union now as the membership chair, and also as a CIN instructor, which so just so happy to be here. And two things just giving me life right now is just my heart is so full seeing you all. Just really, I'm sure we'll talk about this at some point, but CIN was family, and it's like it's a reunion right now, and in like the most familial sense. I just really miss you all a lot. The other thing that's giving me life right now is nature. I've really these are tough times we're living in. It seems like we say that a lot, but it's really true right now, I think. And getting outside, away from the doom scrolling, away from the news, and getting out and letting the sun hit and the birds sing, and whether it's taking walks or doing a little bit of yoga outside or playing a little bit of golf, just listening to the birds and letting the sun hit is really giving me life right now.
Mm.
And I will popcorn over to Pedro.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason. And yeah, just to echo what everybody has said. It's so good to be in. My name is Pedro Reynoso. I'm a librarian here at Chabot College. Yeah, have been working with Sin since day one. And just, yeah, like similar to Jason, wear many hats, similar to Michael and Felicia and Carmen. After so many years, you feel like you're kind of part of this institution and feel like you have made a contribution. It's definitely through Sin as well. What's given me life right now? It's spring, and one of the things that we like to do at home is kind of some spring kind of cleaning at the house. And we came across this external hard drive, and there's all these pictures of the kids. We have two kids, and now they're teenagers. And yeah, so just seeing them grow and just kind of look back at even ourselves too, as the parents, kind of grow over the ages, over the years, I should say. It's just given me a lot of hope and a lot of, yeah, a lot of life. Yeah.
All right. Well, I am Carmen, teacher, PCPG, all that good stuff. And gosh, I was listening to you all and like, I don't know what is, well, I will say what's giving me life right now is all the spring colors in nature right now. I love when I come to Chabot and there's like a purple bush and a kind of fuchsia, but it's just nice to see like all the colors of spring. And I feel like I really love flowers a lot. So this is like my season. So I'm excited about just going to Trader Joe's and getting
Mhm.
flowers and making different bouquets and stuff. And then like we have a lot of roses in our around our house, so they're all blooming, and that's just really fun to like come home and see roses and poppies and all the beautiful spring blooms. It's really lovely. All right. Well, like I said, I have a few questions for us just to get our conversation going. And so the first question that I wanted to ask you all is just basically why CIN? Like, why did you, want to be a part of this learning community? Why did you want to see it happen? Why did you want to, help build it? Like, what drew you to the program or the idea of the program?
I'll start if that's okay with folks.
Yeah.
I've been a member of Amnesty International since I was a freshman in high school. And for those of you who don't listen to the podcast, everybody in this room knows who it is. But Amnesty is a human rights organization that fights for political prisoners. That has always drawn me to helping folks, and I think being a communication studies professor too, just fighting for folks' voice, right? And just, working to make sure that people have their voice. When I was asked to join, and I just so appreciate it, it made a ton of sense to me. I also grew up in a lot of poverty and watched my mom and dad really work really hard, blue collar jobs, never quite able to make ends meet. And I think just growing up in poverty and seeing the struggle that my parents went through, plus the addition of Amnesty, just really gave me this social justice lens that I could never quite put a name to until I went to San Francisco State, until I realized that there were more folks out there who are working to fight for social justice. And it's not something we always get in a high school education, at least not where I grew up. And so when I was asked, I think it felt right. It felt like something I'd been looking for a long time and didn't know existed.
And so much of our like personal experience, right, really pulled us to want to be a part of this program. Anybody else want to share?
Yeah, I think it probably was my first year or second year at Chabot at most. And it was actually Felicia that actually tapped my shoulder and was like, hey, we have this program, we got this learning community called Change It Now. There's an opportunity to be the counselor for the program. And I've never heard of any program like social justice centered programming or anything like that ever in my life. So it was completely new for me. And at the time when I thought about social justice, I had this image of like, people protesting and like marching and all that stuff. And that is a big part, an important part of social justice. But my view was limited at that time. And I felt actually really insecure about taking on the role. And I was very hesitant and I wasn't sure why it's kind of stood out for Felicia to like, hey, I think you might be a good fit. I kind of grew up in Oakland and never really did well in school and stuff, and saw a lot of stuff happening around my communities. And I always had that question, like, what's happening? Like, why are things the way they are? Why do I see people my age like going through what they're going through, and what's happening along the way? I just had those questions, and I kind of did some community work here and there, but I've never thought of it as social justice. It was just me being curious and serving my community in a way that I don't know, I'm just helping out some young people, right? So a lot of it honestly is really that moment when Felicia was like, hey, I think you should do this thing. I think you'll be a good fit. And into my first, second, third year of being the CIN counselor, I even talked to Carmen and Pedro multiple times about like, I don't know if I'm doing this. I don't know if I'm a good fit. But they kept bringing me along and coaching me and like mentoring me along the way. I don't know. Things started to shift for me because my definition of social justice expanded, right? It became more well-rounded. And then I started to really feel like, oh man, maybe I do have something to offer. Maybe I'm not out there marching and protesting and all that all the time. But my way of participating in social justice is just as valid. Like there's something I'm offering. And yeah, and next thing you know, 10 years down the road, right? And that was like approximately 10 years ago. But I do think back at that moment when Felicia sat me down in the office and was like, you should do this thing. And I was talking it through for those couple of weeks because I didn't rush into to my decision and stuff. And I was very hesitant throughout, but with her encouragement and meeting everyone here and looking back now, it probably was one of the most meaningful moments in my career because that really did springboard everything that I got to do since Change It Now, right? Developing the AAPI programs here, putting myself out there in other places around campus. But it really was that moment when Felicia sat me down. It really meant a lot. So But yeah, that's how I got connected, and it's probably one of the best decisions I made.
Mm.
Yeah, and one of the best opportunities I had in my career and beyond, really.
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, I totally remember you being like, I don't think I'm really social justice. I don't.
Mm.
We're just like, I
Yeah.
don't think it is what you think it is.
And just to put it
But
out
just
there
like that's
too,
a part of it. Yeah, like
uh,
you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Pedro.
no, just to put it out there too, Michael Lai, you're so humble, but you also served as library coordinator for quite a few years as library. I mean, I'm sorry,
I was like,
Sin,
library coordinator?
Sin.
You coordinated
Yeah,
the
I was like,
library?
I didn't even know
edit,
that.
please, edit. As the SIN coordinator, and I
That's
think
right.
that we had some very successful years under your leadership. So I also want to acknowledge that, and so important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. What about you, Felicia?
Yeah,
What
I was
drew
thinking, well,
you?
Michael, I'm so touched by your share that that really was a little springboard, a seed that really has blossomed for you. And I think, I mean, I'm guessing just even from what other people have already said and what we'll yet to say, that's true for all of us in just some, different ways. I think sin for me, it's funny, is like, I don't remember like the exact moment of like somebody asking me or like I know that's probably how it happened, but I don't remember the exact moment. I remember like thinking over the opportunity to join Sin, and it was early on in the formulation. And I think in meeting Pedro and Carmen, and I'm gonna just say Christine Warda,
Mhm.
Mm.
she was a big part of my decision to come. And so I want to invite her spirit in this podcast. So, for the podcast listeners, Christine Warda was one of the communication studies instructors who was part of the original formulation of SIN. But I think in meeting everybody involved, that drew me in. I also saw SIN, here's this learning community about social justice, is finally an opportunity where I could embody all my values, like full on. I could be a teacher, I could be a counselor, and the social justice that I always talked about that I said that I did, I really could do it, like deliver in so many ways, whether that was in the classroom, whether that was as a counselor, in the other community events that we did that range from protests to putting on a whole. I mean, it was a dream come true for me to get to put on a social justice and arts conference. Like that was unbelievable. My passion
Mhm.
is dance and being able to Sin gave me a platform to like, I'm just bringing dance into everything because embodiment is the
Mhm.
ultimate social justice. It means you are really in it, doing it, being it, breathing it. Of course, that's my bias and my perspective. But I was
Mhm.
like, Sin lets me open the door. And you all were all like, sure, why not? I
Mhm.
mean, at one point, Christine and I, with her Com 6 class, that was a social justice class, we made people dance out in the middle of the quad of Chabot, kind of performance art. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure other instructors have done something like that, but I feel like we were cutting it. We are cutting edge in those ways. Not just were, we are cutting edge in those ways. So it's like pushing the envelope of learning and understanding and embodying values so that we really inspire change in action, not only in ourselves, but in our communities. And so, and also when stuff at Chabot is just like, ugh.
You can't see her face, but she did make a yucky face.
Yeah, this was again, Sin was home and family. Like it just, and I had that vibe right away. Like I would be able to find safe harbor and true sense of belonging in this circle that is here
Mhm.
right now that I had little tastes of in other places at Chabot, but I really, and I've never felt it again. As I've moved in other colleges and organizations, like this is it. I was like, this is my ideal work environment if I could always recreate it. So thank you.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, there was something because we were all pretty new to Chabot. I think that we had all maybe been there like less than 3 years, right? So we're going through the tenure process. So this was, I think, 2009, where Felicia, Pedro, Christine, Warda, and
Mhm.
myself started the Sin Learning
Mhm.
Community. And we were all super new to Chabot, right? Super young and super new. And so just trying to kind of land in an academic institution was hard.
Mhm.
And like, yeah, I've just those meetings, I just remember so many times that it was just venting, just like, what is this? I don't understand this. Like, why are they acting like this? And yeah, it was very it was nice to have a place to land. What about you, Pedro? What drew you to Sin?
Yeah, no, I appreciate all these stories because it's kind of jogging my memory, and I think
Mm.
I was like my first year at Chabot when you, Felicia, and Christine approached me, and for me, I was so new, and I also was seeking community. I mean, I think, and I did not know that librarians could be part of learning communities. I think most models have your comm, your counselor, and your English. And I think but that spoke to me about, sin was also about pushing boundaries, similar to what even Felicia has talked about doing embodied, dances or going out to, the quad and doing some dancing. I think that was one thing that drew my kind of curiosity, wanting to be part of that. But one of the main things was building community because I was trying to figure things out. But I also was listening to a lot of students that would come in through the library. And I always have seen libraries as kind of cultural centers, communication centers. And I was hearing a lot from students that sometimes, though we have very traditional learning communities like Puente and Umoja, oftentimes some students maybe didn't feel like they could fit in one learning community, and they felt like there was a need for another sort of more multicultural type of learning community. And I think that for me, it's like sin kind of offered that opportunity. And the other thing, the last thing I will say is that from day one, I think all of our meetings were about being vulnerable. I think that we would start with what's new and good. And I remember even first initial meetings was even difficult, just like, oh, I gotta like share about my, what I'm going through. And sometimes those were kind of learning moments. But I think that that's what created that bond, and that allowed us to be such a good team, over the years. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to note too that like we didn't know each other,
Mm-mm.
at all. And it was actually Tom DeWitt and Sean who had approached me about starting a learning community, and they kind of assembled the Avengers. I think they went and talked to each of us and was like, "You all should do this thing." And they had their vision, I think, was a little different because they had been working with something called the Digital Bridges Academy or something like that, and so that was their kind of touchstone. And I feel like I even went to like a week-long workshop with the DBA that was very interesting. But yeah, I think we just decided to do our own thing, right? I remember that we were like, we're gonna do our own thing. And but I think that that's just so interesting, like just how each of us was very like committed to social justice, but we didn't know each other, so we weren't going into it kind of, except it sounded like Felicia, maybe you knew Christy already or had some contact with her, but like we just, we're so kind of interested and committed to this idea that we were just like willing to try together. And I think also just that it was, and it's always been like not only that the students were multicultural, but like the team was too, right? And so us just
Mhm.
trying to build relationships across different backgrounds was, I don't know, I think it's great modeling. I don't know if there's a lot of places where that's happening on campus, other than like your department, but and across discipline, right? I
Mm.
mean, I felt like I learned so much about counseling through working with you two, Mike and Felicia. Like I just had no idea.
Mm.
So that was like really, really cool just to get to learn. Well, Jason, do you want to just share a highlight that you of working with Sin before you go? We know he's got an
Yeah,
essay
so
meeting he's
sorry.
got to go
Yeah,
to.
I have another meeting to bounce to, y'all. I'm so sorry. Highlight. Get woke, stay woke. Always a highlight. Bringing folks in, bringing speakers into the campus. A highlight was Encore. All of us
Mm.
going, and I really feel like we were one of the very few, if not only, community college doing social justice learning community at the time, and that room was a great room, and I think we might have inspired some folks even, and I kind of hope that's true. So highlights, and then just all the students, just always a highlight, and all the work they did and the conversations they had, and the courage they took to stand up at the college and to do things like dance, to make presentations, to do speeches, to advocate for themselves, and I would say all those highlights. And thanks for saying Christy's name, Felicia. I wouldn't be here without her. And so I just really appreciate it. Carmen, Pedro, Felicia, Michael. This would not have happened without y'all. And I'm going to just echo Michael real quick, is that when I think about my career, which is over 20 years now, I've been a pretty successful forensics coach, but I always come back to sin is one of, if not the highlight of my career. So thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yeah, and
Hey,
hopefully we can try to get Christy to come to I don't know where she is right now. I follow her on Instagram, but I don't know where she is. Maybe we can get her to come to the sunset
Mm.
celebration. But yeah, so that was just going to be my next question for you all. Just like, what were some of the challenges and the highlights
Mm.
of working with Sid? Some of the growth spots and some of the grows and glows.
Well, I could share like some of the highlight that comes to mind. But I also appreciate you bringing up the fact that we didn't know each other at
Mhm.
all, like at all. I heard of Felicia's name through our grad program. Like I think she was on her way out when I was on my way in. So we didn't really get to know each other in that way, but I did hear her name and she did all these amazing things already. So when I came to Chabot, I was like, oh, I heard this name before. But beyond that, everyone else was like brand new. Since we've known each other for so long, I forgot there was a time when we didn't know each other. Like, you know? But that's so important because like, wow, how special it is, right? To grab a bunch of people that don't know each other to do this thing that has so many parts and so many layers and I don't know, that's just so special to think back on. A highlight for me is every April, like it's April right now, right around the corner. I always think of Ally Up April. We used to have Ally Up April where we have these topics and we would invite people to like serve on a panel to kind of share their experiences. And we had all these different folks. It was just recently too when me and Mia, which is our Pacific Islander part-time counselor, also former student, former CIN student, and current counselor at Chabot, we were talking about how sometimes the campus doesn't fully understand the Pacific Islander student experience, right? And we're just kind of talking about it and so on, and why we need to continue to talk about the importance of separating the Asian American experience from Pacific Islander experience and how often it gets clumped together under the AAPI umbrella and some of the harm and dangers that could come from that. And we continue to share that message and so on. And it was so funny, like after we had that short conversation, we looked at each other and I was like, Ally Up April, because that was a platform that allowed our students to serve on a panel to just speak openly about their experiences. So that was the first time I met Mia and Tafa, who turned out to be the leaders that or one of the few leaders who developed Nijin Unite to where it is today. And Ally Up April was one of those first platforms that gave them some space to really talk about their experiences. And then that was just one of many topics. There was like one around, I can't even think back at the topics, but like there was a one around Latinx, Black women leaders. There was one on like being Muslim at Chabot. Like there was many, right? But that just shows like a range of topics and a range of communities that Allied Up April offered a platform for. And that's such a loss that we don't have that now. Like I even took it for granted back then. Like, oh, we just do it. And it's just like Chabot just has this thing. But now that we don't have it, it's like, wow, that's such a loss. And it kind of like pains me a little bit that we don't have that platform. I often think about like how we could bring that back in some capacity, but that was such a gift that Change It Now offered to Chabot, to staff and community and so on, because so many powerful stories and narratives and experience were learned and shared through that Ally Up April panel kind of open talking platform. So that was really special for me and continues to be a good memory.
Yeah, it was such a special event, and I love just that you mentioned that there were so many groups. Like we did LGBTQT, I think
Mhm.
too, right? And
LGBTQ, there's so many.
veterans. I mean,
Mhm.
we did a
Veterans.
lot. Disabled, like we did a lot of. I think we had immigrants. Like we did,
Mhm.
and it
Mhm.
was. I think what I loved too about it was also just like there was some combination from us thinking about it and the students. The students also thinking about who they thought would be good to have that we should be allying up with too. It's
And the
really
turnouts were
powerful.
so good at those events too.
Yeah,
Remember, like
especially
it was pretty
pre-COVID.
filled. Yeah, pre-COVID, it was filled, and there was just so much cross learning that was happening in that kind of environment, and it was special.
What about you two? What were some highlights that you had, or challenges also?
Yeah.
Challenges that.
I think I was thinking about kind of the theme of building community. I think that I feel like Sin always had a very kind of wide open door for anybody who wanted to participate and be
Mhm,
part of Sin. And one of the things that I appreciate is having worked with so many faculty that came through the Sin door.
mhm,
And I think you also mentioned this in your email to the campus, Carmen, that it almost served as a laboratory, like this training ground for a lot of faculty like us that we were untenured when we started. They came in and we're like, yeah, if you're about social justice and working with students, that it allowed us to, of course, have kind of a unified effort. But I think to me, learning from people like Juan Pablo Mercado, history instructor, Kay Fisher, a lot of folks who have participated, Mona, a lot of folks
mhm,
who went through sin. And I think that by being very open and wanting to learn to better serve our students, I think that to me that was also very rewarding, being able to work with other folks, not just within the core, but outside of the core. So, and I want to believe that a lot of the folks who went through through a sin It's been mentioned here in this circle that have been shaped or formed or, empowered by sin, that a lot of other faculty who have gone through sin have had similar experiences. So I think that also for me was the importance of also building community as faculty, because I think also for the most part faculty of color as well, that oftentimes these institutions can be very foreign to for myself, first generation immigrant student who being at a community college was kind of like a big feather in my hat to be have a full-time tenure track position. But with that comes a lot of challenges, not knowing the ins and outs, how tenure works, or just how to act like a faculty sometimes, so how to be at a meeting. And so I think for me that was also kind of a highlight, being able to work with so many people within the ranks of Chabot.
And we did get to meet with a lot of different, I mean, there was a math teacher that I think was
Yeah.
Cynthia Stubblebine that worked with
Mm-hmm.
us for a bit. Kristen worked with us for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really, really neat to get to work with so many different faculty
Mm-hmm.
across the Rena worked with us a bit,
Yeah.
across the whole, across the campus.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
And these were times where maybe the professional development programs here at Chabot weren't as robust, or a lot of stuff happening. So I think
Yeah,
this also allowed that space to have these conversations that
yeah,
oftentimes happen in these.
totally. What about you, Felicia?
I
What are
was
some
going to say,
highlights?
building off what Pedro just said, I think a personal highlight was really being able to develop social justice based curriculum, through our classes, through our programming. And I felt like, there was no other space in my other roles or other hats to really do that fully. And again, to Pedro's description of sin as a lab where we could really experiment and really try on these different approaches that really centered students and centered social justice over and over again in different ways, and also centered individual and community care. I think
Mm,
like we always, from how we ran our own internal staff meetings to how often, Carmen, you ran student leadership, and I know other people ran student leadership, to when we'd come together as staff and students, like that whole, it was always care was there. Like if you're not doing well as an individual, how do we support you? If something's a little off in our group dynamics, how do we address it? So I think that will also be part of my challenges. Like we went through plenty of bumps, whether it was faculty leaving and coming and
mhm,
going, or I remember, our having a very open community door. The challenge of it was when we had to prove to administrators and other folks like our outcomes and our numbers and stuff. We're like, well, how do we know who is a sin student, who and who isn't? Because like we spent a lot of time on like, we is there some formal definition, but we don't want to tell other people to go away and they're only part of the club. And like, so I think that those like explaining and describing who we were
mm,
within Chabot to meet outcomes and metrics that are expected, that we didn't get to self-define, was challenging over time, at least at the beginning, because that's when I was there. So I think that was a challenge. And I think we often rose to the challenge, or we got creative about it, or we ignored them and kept doing what we wanted to do anyways, which I appreciate all those approaches. And then I think on a like community event level, something that I just remember and have strong feelings about was, I don't know, like I don't even know if I'll remember the formal name of the event, was the Stop the Violence
Yeah,
events
Miss
that often
Mac.
were Miss Mac led, and inspired. And yeah, they were, I mean, the fact that they were a ritual. I mean, I think, I care so much about grief. It to me is very closely tied to grief and bringing the community to remember together to remember, and also at the same time like a forward movement to like, what are we all going to do about this, because this keeps happening, folks. Like, so how are we addressing this, and it impacts all of us. So those really, and I just loved how student led they were, and how we all got on board. I remember, I think there was one, maybe we were in the cafeteria. It was like we had the big space and we pushed tables away, and that we planned like a embodied demonstration where we all laid down dead for and it was like we were pushing lots of administrators buttons about doing that. I remember like until that morning we weren't sure if we could, and then we were like, we're just gonna do it anyways. So yeah, that really stands out to me.
It's so fun to just see. I was putting together that little digital archive. So all like when you talk about the die-in, I have all those pictures from that day, and it's fun to just, Yeah, just to remember that, you know, and I definitely agree. Just the trying things, like I felt like we just tried a lot of things, you know. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember, I don't know if this was the same day as the die-in, but we had planned to do like a campus walkout or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it had been storming. It was storming and storming, and Margaret and Brianna, they were all texting me like, "Are we still gonna do it?" And I'm just like, "Yeah." And we were just like marching around campus in the rain, playing, these instruments and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so it was, yeah, I love I think we ended up calling it tinkering, right, Pedro, in the end. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this idea of just trying
Yes.
things
Mm-hmm.
and seeing what happens for
Mm-hmm.
sure. And then I feel, in some ways that it was a highlight, but also a challenge because sometimes you try things and it didn't work,
Right.
and it failed. And I was thinking about this morning and just the fact of like being a new faculty and not really understanding how this institution worked. And like some of the things you're talking about, Felicia, like, oh, needing to explain, who a sin student is. And I feel like we still struggled with that in the end,
Mm-hmm.
because it just seemed, I think what was challenging was it just seemed like the college had a hard time kind of wrapping their mind around what we were doing because they were so kind of like identity focused. And so since this wasn't really based on like an identity, more of an interest, and for some students it was an identity being, but wasn't an identity that you could measure. It was very, very hard to try to talk about like what we were doing, and I think hard to get funding for, hard to get. Yeah, I think it just because I don't know if it was the same at other places, but it just seemed like it was hard for our college to really kind of understand the work that we were trying to do. Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Just forever. So I feel like all the things that you all named are definitely highlights that I share. Just all the events, the curriculum and the fun, and just growing that. I forget what we called it in the beginning. It was like step into college or step it up, something
Mhm.
like that. That ended up
Mm-hmm.
becoming the Get Woke, Stay Woke conference. And and I feel like there were a few years where that conference we had like 80 students, and had the high schools and speakers and just, in Tommy's band playing, and we were jamming. And so that was really, really, really cool. Really, really good times. Any other challenges or highlights that you all want to share about the
Um, yeah, actually, like in terms of challenge, like when Change It Now was asked and continues to be asked, like how do you define your student? And a lot of like that question happens across a lot of programs, but it was kind of unique to it. I think Change It Now experienced it in kind of a unique way. It's like it was different. And on a personal level, what was challenging for me is I feel like I didn't get a chance to tackle that question with you all. And we were building towards it and we're getting closer to it. And I've always felt bad because it was on a personal level, it was hard for me, but I left sin. Like, I moved away from sin to go develop, movement and, further develop Needs Unite and so on. And I've always felt bad because we were wrestling with that question for like 2 years, and I felt like we were getting somewhere. I was doing both things, right? I was trying to develop this new program. I was still kind of coordinating sin with you all, and it just I think you guys pulled me aside and was like, hey, you might have to go do this thing. Like, this is the time to go build up your AAPI program. And this is your window. You got to go invest in it full on. And I always felt bad that like I wanted to do both. I wanted to stay with both. And but with your encouragement and your support, I went ahead and I had to leave. I stepped away from sin to go develop this other program. In a way, I'm very happy that our program is thriving and it's become this thing at Chabot. And but I always look back, I'm like, man, I really wish I could have did that with sin. Like I feel like I didn't like I had a little more to give with sin, and we're kind of primed to kind of take that leap. But yeah, it didn't play out that way for me, and that always stayed with me. That was like a personal challenge for me. Or honestly, if I could, I probably would want to. I want to go back, and I mean, I don't. I want to develop sin the same way that I was able to develop movement.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it stayed with me. That's like a personal challenge that always kind of stayed with me. Is I felt like I had more to give to sin, and I think we could have answered that question in terms of how do we define a change in now student. I think um, working, yeah. So that was a personal challenge that continues to stay with me a little bit.
Well, I don't think that you should feel bad at all, Michael. Like, we were so happy for you to start movement and so proud of you for
Mm-hmm.
doing that. And it was a natural like next step for you, you
Mhm.
know, and there's no, I mean, the program isn't ending because, you know, you didn't get to answer that question or because you stepped away, you know. The
Mhm.
program is ending because the school, you know, we didn't get the resources that we needed to keep it going,
Mhm.
but it's got
Yeah.
nothing to do with you, you know. And it,
Yeah.
I mean, it was like a question for, I mean, it's a trippy question that I don't, that people would ask us, but I don't know if it played any role in anything at the same time, you know? Like I don't know if it even really mattered. You know, people would ask, how are you measuring students? And so then we come up with the answer, we put it in program review, and I don't know if it ever, you know, made a
Mhm.
difference anyways, you know? So definitely don't want you to feel bad. I mean, I know I'm so proud of you and, you know, so excited for the work that you do. It's kind of like, I think the thing where we're just like, this is something we did. We supported
Mhm.
Mike, you know?
Oh man, those years of working with Change It Now really did set a foundation and prep me for that next stage. Like
Yeah,
the connections are so clear. Like you could see Change It Now in movement even now. Like you can
yeah.
see elements of it. And
Yeah.
it'll always be there for sure.
That's so true, Michael. And I too want to uplift your leadership, both in sin and after sin. And I think that part of my process of kind of coming to terms to the fact that sin will not be here as a learning community next semester is thinking about things that kind of end, but things that emerge from that, right? And things like movement and your leadership within movement. And you know, Carmen and I have talked about also the in the work that um, hopefully I get this right, CCEPG.
Mhm.
You know, all the equity work being done by you, Kristen, and your team, Carmen. I think that I almost think that some of the sin work that we were doing in the early days were like kind of the initial, you know, may disagree with me, Carmen, but I think they were the initial kind of steps, you know, to get to that point. And I think that sin follows us everywhere. I've been in meetings like the fit committee and thinking about how to take a deep breath about the care that Felicia talked about and thinking about how to best approach something. So, or even when I was in the graduate program not too long ago, when I went back to school, a lot of the stuff that they were talking about, I'm like, well, we've done that. We've done that at SIN, you know, which was social justice related in terms of, you know, kind of the um, being vulnerable and really you know tapping into your social emotional learning and stuff like that. But so I think that it just follows us everywhere we go, and even in our personal relationships that we have, I think so yeah.
It's definitely true. I mean, when I look back though, I feel like, what was I thinking? You know, I mean, I had just had a baby. You know, teaching. I mean, I think that was one of the big learning pieces for me was just it's really hard as a faculty member to coordinate, or I shouldn't say that because I know counselors are faculty too, but just like to be teaching so much and be coordinating a program, I think definitely counselors kind of that role kind of lends itself more to be a program coordinator than a faculty member because, you know, for a while I was like teaching the SIN English class, coordinating the program, and teaching the student leadership class, in addition to teaching like two or three other English classes at the same time. That's insane. Like, what the heck? And did that for a few years, you know? Like, so I definitely feel just a lot of burnout, I think,
Mhm.
just going at that speed. And, you know, it's like now when I am on tenure committees with younger faculty, it's like I'm always telling them, you have time. You have so much time. Like there's just no rush to like do the project that's in your mind right now. Like you have a lot of time, you know. So many things, you know, hindsight's 2020, but so many things that I wish I. Any other highlights or challenges that you want to share?
I have a quick highlight, and just because it came to mind after Flex Day, I attended the Manaswa presentation.
Mm,
This is a group of students from the Middle East, North African, and Southwest Asia region, and both Homera Elder and Samantha Rajan are leading this effort. But one of the things they spoke about was the importance of food and
mm,
gathering around food to be in community. And it brought me back. I was just thinking about it. I think we had an event called Gathering in the event
that's
center.
right.
Yeah. And I think Felicia, Christine Warda, and all of us wanted to bring people around food that was from their region. And I remember how, again, finding different ways of getting people together, talk about what we feel proud of in terms of our food, because that's what I saw at the Manaswa um, presentation or panel. Students really being proud of their food, their culture, and wanting to be seen and create a sense of belonging. So I think it just made me think about some of those events that were around food and just being together, or having a end of the year celebration at a park where we had
That's
barbecue
right. Did that for a while.
barbecue we had to carry to so that was really a family gathering. Students
Mhm.
brought their children, and so a lot of good memories that surface.
Yeah, and trying a lot of different things.
I can bounce off what Pedro was just saying because I had some stories come back related. So when we did the gathering event around food, I would add in Veronica was a key player. Veronica Martinez was our a
Mm,
key player in helping set that up. So I just wanted to call her name in.
mm,
And I think part of that piece too was having an opportunity for students to share their food and be proud of their food and their culture. But it was also allowing people to break bread with each other and sit next to each other and talk about what they're eating there, because I remember there was a couple of students, it was the first time they'd ever had hummus, or the
mm,
first like and they were like things they were really afraid of, but
mm,
like since their friends and peers were there and they're like, well, this is from my culture, all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'll try a little bit, even if they tried just a tiny bit and
mm,
didn't like it, but now they knew, right? They really they risk something to taste it and feel it. So to me that was really really powerful. And the challenge with that event for me was that I was responsible for bringing kind of black soul food, and I found a local black soul food restaurant in Hayward that catered, and I went and bought like big plates of the food to bring, and I put them in my trunk, and they did not have lids that were that secure.
Oh
And so
no.
while I drove, so like luckily we didn't lose a lot, but like collard greens, and like all this stuff spilled in my trunk, and that smell never left. Never left. And I was always afraid if somebody wanted to get a ride in my car and it was hot out, because then it would like so that was a challenge. That was a challenge.
Transporting collard greens is no
Yes.
joke. That's happened to me before.
uh,
The same thing.
uh,
I was in the front seat, so my car just smelled like greens. It's like the worst. Oh, it's so funny. Yeah, so many good memories. I just also just really appreciated all the Sin students. I mean, they were the ones that designed the logo. They were the ones that came up with the name Change It Now, that
Mhm.
first group, and all their leadership and activities, and love, and so many names and faces just pop in my mind, of all the
mm,
students that we've served over the last 15 years.
mm,
That I mean, I was talking to a former student who was like, said she wouldn't have even finished college if she hadn't been in sin. So it made a difference in a lot of people's lives that we were there, and able to
mm,
support them on their academic journey.
mm.
Is so important.
Well, and the fact that many of them are working here at Chabot now,
Yeah,
like
there's a
like
few.
Blessing and
Yeah,
Jasmine, I believe, and
yeah.
probably more than I mean, those are the two that come to mind. But
Well, Miss Mac,
Miss Mac,
who
yes,
works
obviously,
there.
yeah.
Yeah,
Shout out to Miss Mac, yeah.
Mia, she's our part-time
that's
counselor.
right. Mia,
Yeah.
that's right.
Maya, Toluk,
Yeah.
Maya, and I also had another student I ran to recently, and she's a teacher at like an elementary school nearby here too, and she brought up sin and how she kind of embeds it into her teaching and stuff
Oh,
like that. So,
Mm.
yeah, definitely the impact continues.
that is so awesome. Well, what do you all think is like the legacy of Sin at the Chabot campus, or what you want people to know just about doing social justice work, or anything that you think people should know about Sin?
Can I go just because I have to jump off in
Oh
about a
my God,
minute?
I know it goes so fast. The
I
time,
was
yeah,
You're having fun, right? Time
yeah.
flies. Maybe a part of Sin's legacy that at least stays with me, and Michael spoke to it earlier, is really broadening the understanding of what social justice is and what it can look like and what it can feel like
Mm,
and how to embody it. That it's really this wide range
mm,
of things and values and attitudes and approaches and energies. It's like all of those things, including getting on the street and protesting something. But it's so much more than that. And I think I already felt that before Sin, but like Michael said, that just blew up being a part of. And it like helps me ground myself in the work I do today. So that's part of Sin's legacy with me. And I think what I want other people to know about Change It Now is when you bring together a really diverse group of people, faculty, staff, students, and really create a sense of belonging and care, magical things can happen. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. I hope someday, I know lives are crazy, but it would be so great someday to get together in person
Yeah.
and have a meal, break some bread
Mhm.
together. I would so love that. We might have to plan it for a year from now. Who knows?
I don't think
But
it'll be that far, but we
but I
can
would
do
just
it.
love that. So I just want to plant that seed because I think it would be really fabulous given how this went.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Thanks for taking the time,
Right.
Felicia.
Good thing,
Bye.
Bye.
Felicia.
Bye. What about you two? What do you all want to say about the Sin legacy or what you want
Mm.
people to know?
I want people to remember that Sin offered something really special and something that was really needed at Chabot College. Even today, like not having a multicultural learning community on campus, I feel like it's such a clear gap in our offerings under, in our programs that we offer and the services that we offer. It's so needed because so many students gravitate towards that, and not having it, I think it's such a loss. So I want people to think back that, hey, Change It Now offered something really special for our student community and something that's really needed. And in terms of like programming, it was like innovative, right? Like it was really it took it was like a lot of risk taking involved, and that a lot of our programs now are still, learning from some of the stuff that we Change It Now tried out and offered to the campus. And me in particular, like I take so much from just the programming of a learning community that I've learned from, Change It Now, Moja, Puente, I bring all those elements together. Yeah, just looking at the work that you do today and under CCEPG and how social justice and racial justice is like embedded into it and centered. And yeah, just looking at the work that you do, Carmen, under that stuff is like I always admire that. It's just such an inspiration, seriously. So just working with the both of you, Pedro, and all your work in the community, I want people to remember y'all. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I want people to remember the work that you all put in, what you offered our students, our community, our staff, and just remember you guys as people, and and everything that you guys bring.
Mm.
Mm,
Mm.
Mike. What about you, Pedro?
Oh, well, Michael, I mean, I second, of course, and thank you for the beautiful words. I think that and you may recall this, Carmen. I think when we had Morning Star,
Oh, yeah.
this was a consulting group that we hired, and this was like in initial years, and we did a lot of kind of laying down the infrastructure and talked about why sin. And I think that at the time I was doing other events or working with other faculty, and I felt that there was such a gap for a program that was women led, but specifically, women of color led. I think
Mm,
that the work that we did was around that, and I think being able to follow the leadership also of other faculty member, in this case, your work, because you come from, a lineage of a lot of social justice work, and I really felt that that was what I wanted to kind of align myself under, and I think for me, kind of like the legacy, trying to bring it back to the question is about how much I learned and grew from being around people like yourself, and Michael and Felicia and Jason. But I always, and to this day, any organization always tends to have almost like they call them barriers, or the people who carry a torch.
mm,
I don't know what the term is. I think, but that you have always consistently done that, before sin, with sin, and after sin. And I think that to me, that was inspiring. And I think that just want to say that sin always was about the social justice um, flag,
mm,
and participation. And I think that before sin, at that time, there was maybe not as much activity around issues of social justice. And I think I want to believe, and faculty to if they listen to this podcast, that sin planted a lot of seeds to a lot of programs that are here today, and I think that we were doing at the time, we were doing environmental justice, events, and Indigenous Peoples Days, and we're doing a lot of work that I think that was important, and I think that I'm so glad that it's even just gotten even bigger. It's been amplified. So I know I said a lot, but I just feel very proud, and Sin definitely made a significant contribution on the social justice kind of needle here, moving the needle.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like Sen, contributed so much to making Chabot a social justice oriented campus and really giving people language to think
Mm,
about social justice. And I feel, I just feel sad because I think right now is a moment where we need it more than ever. And it's just quiet, it's just really quiet on campus. And I know that if we were still kind of up and running, that there'd be a lot more happening on campus to address the challenges that we're facing in America. I could imagine, some type of speak out about ICE or the
mm,
war in Iran or, women's rights. And like, there's just so many topics that students need a space
mm-hmm,
to share how they're feeling. And so I feel sad, I just feel sad that like, I just hope, and maybe it's not next year, maybe it's not 5 years, maybe it'll be when I'm gone, but that somebody picks up that torch and
mm,
keeps it lit at Chabot, to create a space for our students. Is, part of the reason why I wanted to start a learning, social justice learning community was because I read Asata by Asata Shakur, and she talked about the community college being the place where she got politicized. And
mm,
so I was just like, wow, that's so cool. Like we could do that here, at this college. And we serve like what, 12,000 students. Like, I don't know, it's just such an amazing opportunity. Um, and yeah, I just hope that torch continues to be lit, in one way or another. I'm sure it's happening in classrooms. I don't doubt that for a moment. But
mm,
as a campus, would be well. We better wrap it up. I didn't expect us to talk so long, but we
mm.
had such really great things to say. So I hope our listeners are with us still. And maybe we just do a quick go around of just like a recommendation, something you recommend to our readers. I mean, our readers, to our listeners.
Something I learned from the both of you and working with Sin, and because before Sin, I rushed through everything. Like I rushed to meetings, I rushed through my work, I rushed through what I ate, or just always in a rush and trying to get everything done as quickly as possible. But slowing down, I guess that's my recommendation, is I learned that, hey, the work will get done. You actually do better work when you're mindful, slow down, do it with your heart, and rather than rushing through it, slow down when you eat, appreciate what you drink, everything. Just slow down. Wellness, taking care of yourself is social justice. And that's my recommendation, just to slow down, take care of yourself, and enjoy the moment. I know it's hard out there, but enjoying the moment and taking care of yourself is social justice.
What
Mm.
about you, Pedro?
Yeah, I just want to say, Michael, I appreciate you so much. Yeah, I always enjoy. I mean, love your words, and thank you for saying what you just said. For me, recommendation: spring break is coming next week for faculty here at Chabot. I mean, we talked a lot about food. I enjoy making something sometimes with the family or going out to have a nice meal. So maybe, as Felicia described, the power of being around food. And I don't have a restaurant to recommend, but just have a nice meal. And similar to what Michael said, enjoy slow.
Yeah, and I will recommend just walking. I've been trying to practice like doing a 10-minute walk after I eat for like digestion.
Mm,
So just go for a walk, get those steps in. The weather's getting better, let the sun hit your skin. It'll help you with some sleep if you get some sun in your eyes. It'll make a big difference. But just to get
mm,
outside and go for a walk. And I think that's part of the care and the slowing down too.
mhm.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thanks Felicia and Jason for joining us too. And we'll wrap it up for this episode of the Brown Bag Podcast.